Bonjour, bonjour. Come on in out of the rain. I've got something to show you today. The hidden historical treasures of our underground Parisian cave. Come on in. So first of all, we come to this quaint little door that has a little original colour, a kind of mustard tobacco yellow, which I've kind of fallen in love with, even though it's a little bit scruffy. So come on through. So as you come down the stairs, you can see the underside of the spiral original staircase that we have built here. It's over 130 years old. It's all in oak wood and it's got nails hanging out. You can see patch jobs have happened over the years, and it's actually typical of Osman style building, which they built these staircases through the big light wells in the center of the home. It was a sign of refinement, and we are lucky to have that here, and you can see it's on this giant column that comes down into the underground level. And you can see we've got the limestone foundations, which is very typical of Paris, because Paris was once a very shallow basin, which was maybe 45 million years ago. And that was in like the Jurassic period, and that's obviously dried and it became a really calcium-rich mineral stone. It was a cheap material, it was locally sourced, and they dug down into the earth to literally build the foundations of Paris from this stone. And from those quarries that they had, they actually found it became a void, and with all these tunnels, and I think there's around 200 kilometers of tunnels running underneath Paris from these quarries, and they turned them into what is now the catacombs. And so this is a barrel style vaulted ceiling. And what I love is there's this actual soft architectural detail even. Paris is, and actually a lot of, not just Paris buildings, but a lot of historical buildings have vaulted ceilings because it was Roman architecture and it was quite common in bathhouses and wine cellars. And that's, I think, because it distributes the weight more evenly, and apparently it adds more strength to the building. And even though our one isn't amazingly beautifully vaulted like Notre Dame or, you know, the catacombs in Paris, we kind of have a little secret soft one that I enjoy. It's quite nice. We actually found out that often in these big beautiful homes that they had a garde-à-manger, which is like a natural refrigeration area, and you would have all your preserved meats, cheeses, wine, maybe your olives and things like that. And that is exactly what we would like to continue in this space. So you could come down one day and back to the source style of living. And I think that's kind of something we'd like to tap into more and more. And it's just a little treasure. And under this vaulted ceiling, it just is so authentic to the history of the home and bringing into the next century. So let's take a left. So originally this cave, and I'm sorry it's quite dark, we've got temporary lighting, it was split into different parts, and you can tell it was because we've got these beautiful old oak doors that have really antique handles. Have a look at this. Beautiful old key. It's so heavy. And it still works. So now we've obviously got the new technology of a heating system that is quite modern, but originally there was an absolute relic of a heater that was here, which we've removed, and it was like absolutely enormous. And even before that, we had a charcoal heating system, which when we came to view this house actually was filled still, probably with like a metre deep of charcoal. And you can actually see that it was still used and heated as that because we have all the tools that they did to shovel the coal. There was this tool here, and I have no idea what this horsehairy string is for. So if anyone can explain it, I'd like to know. We've not touched this whole area, so if anyone understands what that was for, that'd be great, because it used to come in through this tiny little cute window just behind here. They would actually come in from the street in maybe a cart and deliver it down into this whole area. And you can see hidden behind that door we opened, this was where it would demarcate that the charcoal would stop. And I imagine there might have been a little door here as well, but that's long gone. And I can fully imagine that then you would have been like full of soot, because it can see the colour on the stone is demarked all the way up to the top. So at some point it was very, very useful. Now it's not so useful, but it's nice to have that little charm of the history, and it still remains as is, which is lovely. Come on through, I want to show you my favourite feature. Another beautiful old door with another slightly smaller key this time. So maybe there was less valuable things in here, which would explain it actually, because my favourite feature is this beautiful old bathtub washing basin. I think it's made out of bricks and concrete with like a little wood feature on top and the old taps. And back in the day, when this house was built around 1850, they would have had the washerwomen in the front here, which actually in the can-can is a very famous dance move, and it's historically a satire of the everyday movements that you would do in life. And this was one of them, the old washerwoman basin. And this for me is an absolute dream to keep. Maybe even keep it as a laundry basin. You don't find these every day, and so I think it's an absolute gem and worth keeping for sure. I just spotted there's a light down the bottom here. I've not seen that before. Oh, it's green. And they had an old little clothesline with the old pegs to come across and hang the washing directly after. We've had to cut them, unfortunately, because this is now a wood stock room, and we've got that vaulted ceiling, but in a different way because the actual ceiling's bowing because we haven't done the structural work here and yet. So that's something that we're going to continue doing in our renovation of this beautiful scruffy mini manor in Paris. And let's continue the tour. And if you're wondering about this wood, it's actually locally sourced from our very own garden. We have an episode where we trimmed back a lot of our beautiful 100 and maybe 30-year-old trees, and now we get to reuse the firewood in another renewable source. It's quite nice to know that we can be self-reliant on our own charming wood fire heating, and there's plenty of it. So you might be wondering why on earth we've got some stone in front of the window. That's because the glass broke. Oops. And we have a neighbour's cat, or maybe even a street cat, that has just taken a fancy to living in our underground cellar. And why not? Because it's full of beautiful historic features. But he needs to learn that it's not an abandoned home anymore and that we live here now. And so we've tried to deter him with this, but he's actually managed to sneak through a few times. And so we've nicknamed him Batcat because he kind of just does this little Batman invisible entrances and exits. And well, we'll give him some pats out in the garden instead. And yeah, for now it's stone. You don't live here anymore, but we love him all the same. So this is, I'd say, the cutest, most retro fire extinguisher that's sitting here waiting to be used. We've got it from 1965. So what do we think with the cute little quaint drawings of how to use the fire extinguisher? Do we think it still works? Is it actually dangerous to have this here? Like, I wonder what's happened to the foam inside it, that's the question. And so this fire extinguisher, it actually reminds me of, this is a bit of history of our own, but Paul's dad was actually a chief firefighter in Paris in the, 70s and 80s? And he was leading the brigades, and back then, even actually to this day, the French fire brigades are military run, so it's very regimented, and he's spoken of lots of fires within Paris because there's the medieval style buildings with lots of exposed wood beams, which were a big problem because they were often very flammable and the flames could jump from building to building. And so he's got lots of stories of fighting fires here in Paris, and he's got that beautiful casquette, the helmet that you typically see, that it's absolutely gorgeous, and he's got that as a memento, and we've got this as a memento. So yeah, I don't know who wins, but I think a broken fire extinguisher is pretty up there. And so just for one more example of the beautiful stone that we have here, this is probably one of our cleanest walls that we've managed to restore so far, and you can just see how they've dug down into the underground level, and this stone we're going to try and leave exposed like this everywhere, and these are the kind of things you just can't find everywhere, and so I think they're precious, and the more and more we're going through and now discovering the heritage of it, the more important I think it is to keep it for the next generation to come, which is nice. And so here you can see we've done some structural work. We've recently just finished a labour of love for these new beams that have been installed, and what a difference it makes. For the reassurance level that the house won't fall down, and as well for the space that it opens up. And so we've got a future wine cellar that's in this area, and then my French fiancé Paul has also got his dream workshop atelier where he can tinker away to his heart's content. It's just behind you now. I'll show you. Ta-da! A mere few weeks ago, Paul started a huge undertaking of reinforcing the ceiling with new structural beams all by himself as a one-man mission. It was incredible watching his skills unfold and grow, and if you haven't watched these episodes, jump on our homepage, as it certainly is an adventure, and I couldn't be more proud of him. So this is an amazing man cave, and I think it's every carpenter's dream to have a full workshop like this. We could have a beautiful wine cellar, a beautiful atelier and a beautiful spa, perhaps even turn that last wood room into a cinema room. The potential is endless. With ideas flowing of old washerwoman basins and natural refrigerators from a bygone era, we enjoy the little history treasures of old keys, retro fire extinguishers and old coal heating systems, but most importantly, celebrate the wins of Paul completely restoring the structural beams single-handedly to bring this Parisian manor into the next century. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little walkthrough tour of our underground Parisian cave. So we'll see you for the next episode of Restore Bonjour. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can keep up to date with our week-by-week Sunday posts. You can spend a Sunday with us with a croissant and a hot chocolate, or maybe a glass of French red wine. We'll see you next time. Bye!